West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
So like Chairman Aguilar said, we hear a lot from our constituents on different issues, but something I've heard that doesn't seem to be being covered are the Epstein files. These files were released, and like Donald Trump's sort of all over this, right? There are pictures of him with Jeffrey Epstein. He's taken multiple plane flights with Epstein, with young girls on board. He is on call logs with Epstein. One of the highest trending hashtags on Twitter right now is about Trump and Epstein. I'm not going to repeat the hashtag because we're in a dignified setting. But yeah, y'all might want to look at that because that's highly disturbing. And again, it shows that Donald Trump is unfit for office. And by the way, he was convicted in a civilian court for sexual assault, convicted in a separate court of 34 felonies. Donald Trump should drop out of the race.
Look, I know that Donald Trump once said that he can stand in Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and his base will still support him. I think he also perhaps even underestimated that corporate media would still support him if he did that. And look, most sane Americans, though, don't want a sexual predator as the leader of our country. And so I'm glad that Ted Lieu, Democratic Congress member, is bringing that up. And I think one of the reasons he's bringing that up, it's because people like you, the Midas Mighty, are speaking to our elected officials and saying, this really matters to us. We don't want to hear about the corporate media continuing their ageist attacks on President Biden, who's been a great president. We want to hear about actual news, like the fact that the Epstein files, another batch, was released last week. This was part of a law that was passed in the Florida legislature to make available and make public criminal grand jury files from the Epstein criminal case in Florida. And sure enough, guess whose name appears over and over again? Message log, message log, message log, message log. It's Donald Trump's name. And there are undisputed facts, folks. When it comes to Donald Trump, it is undisputed, for example, that Virginia Giuffre, a woman who was trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein, was recruited by Ghislaine Maxwell at Mar-a-Lago. She worked at Mar-a-Lago. She was living on the streets. Her dad was a worker at Mar-a-Lago and helped her get a job there. And then very quickly, she was recruited by Ghislaine to meet Jeffrey Epstein, and then she was trafficked. I mean, we can go through this line by line. Like, look, Donald Trump, during the criminal trial of Ghislaine Maxwell, said he wishes her well. Think about that. Trump was asked, what do you want to say to Ghislaine Maxwell? He doesn't say it's despicable, it's disgusting, this conduct is abhorrent, or just not comment at all. He goes, I wish her well. The woman who trafficked for Epstein, Trump says, I wish her well. Here, play this clip.
Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, And so a lot of people want to know if she's going to turn in powerful people. And I know you've talked in the past about Prince Andrew, and you've criticized Bill Clinton's behavior. I'm wondering, do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well, whatever it is. I don't know the situation with Prince Andrew. Just don't know. Not aware of it.
Donald Trump's also quoted, of course, in New York Magazine, where he previously said that Jeffrey Epstein is a great guy who likes women on the younger side. He says, I mean, just think about that. That's what Donald Trump says, that Epstein likes women on the younger side. Trump would party with Epstein. Just take a look at this. These are the flight logs. Trump's name appears at least 7 times on Epstein's plane. Epstein flew on Donald Trump's plane and brought a young girl of indeterminate age, it was reported. At the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, it was reported that Jeffrey Epstein introduced this was a testimony at the trial, that a 14-year-old girl was introduced by Epstein to Donald Trump. And we need more politicians talking about this. We need the corporate media to talk about this. And so I think you need to call your member of Congress and tell them that this is an issue that matters to you. This is from a few months back, but this is Democratic Congress member Jared Moskowitz, where he brought up Epstein and Donald Trump's connections to Jeffrey Epstein. Watch this.
And so, again, because the gentle lady from Georgia, I know is such an advocate for women's rights, as she mentioned, and is so concerned about grooming, and apparently we don't have any standards here anymore. Again, I just want to remind my colleagues, because, you know, I don't want them to forget about hypocrisy, okay? I don't want them to forget about hypocrisy. But, you know, Donald Trump was asked about Jeffrey Epstein, and when he was asked, he said, you know, Jeffrey likes him young. How did the president know that? How did he know that Jeffrey Epstein likes him young? Perhaps some people are saying he was there, since you're so concerned, right? But again, I bring this up not to make jest. I bring it
Point
up.
of order, Mr. Chairman.
I bring it up. I thought we weren't going to interrupt.
We're going to stop the clock. We did this with Ms. Green. State your point.
Yeah, I'm just curious about the impugning of the former president's character. That we.
I don't have to do that. He does that himself.
Have we basically thrown that rule out? I'm just curious, or are we going to follow that?
Would you accept a pornographic photo
of Bill Clinton?
Yeah, we suspended the rule to the current president, but we didn't suspend it to the former president.
Oh, by the way, please. So you're making the point that we can disparage Joe Biden, but not Donald Trump. Please make that point to the American people. Please. Bill Clinton's not running for office.
That's my point.
And folks, it was, by the way, it was a great rant there by Moskowitz, and all true, all factual, right? It was all MAGA saying, release the files. Okay, well, the files are released. And then they're like, well, Trump's name doesn't appear anywhere. Yes, he does. It appears all over it. I'm showing you where it appears over and over and over again. A deposition portion where one of the victims that was trafficked by Epstein said that while she was on the plane, Epstein told the pilot that they were going to stop off at one of Trump's hotels in Atlantic City. Here's Donald Trump on audio right here saying that at his beauty pageants, he would inspect naked girls without their consent. And that because he led the pageants, you can do it. You can get away with it. They let you do it when you are the head of the pageants. Watch this.
Well, you could also say, as the owner of the pageant, it's your obligation to do that.
So you have done that. Now,
I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
like
everything is good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible looking women.
And so I sort of get away with things like
I mean, again, this is all happening in plain view, and the media refuses to talk about it. I mean, here was an article that talked about how in the 90s, Donald Trump would, party on these boats like this party that was ahead of the Look of the Year competition. This is the competition that Donald Trump was sponsoring, just so you can see, these are little girls we're talking about. These are little girls we're talking about. And then when you read the article, it talks about how these girls were on this yacht with Donald Trump and other men who were old enough to be their grandfather. And then the old men would grind on the young girls, and they would say, "Get me some more younger, bring me some more, bring me some more." And that was happening the day before, or as part of the parties before that Look of the Year competition that you just saw there. I mean, look, there's audio right here. This is Donald Trump talking about Lindsay Lohan, who was either just turned 18 or was 17, just turning 18 or 18 years old. And here's Donald Trump saying that when it comes to Lindsay Lohan, the reason that he thinks that she would be good for him to sleep with is because of mental illness, which he says makes women better to sleep with. He says, I mean, this is what's coming out of his mouth. Here, play this clip.
What do you think of Lindsay Lohan now? I think she's hot. There's something there, right? Yes. But you have to like freckles. I've seen a close-up of her chest. Yes. And a lot of freckles. Are you into freckles? If the father's a wreck, like the way he is. Right. You imagine the sex with this troubled? Yeah, you're probably right. She's probably deeply troubled and therefore great in bed. Back in the day. How come the deeply troubled women? Yes. Deeply troubled. Right. They're always the best in bed. If for some reason what I said is true, I mean, they're just unbelievable. I can tell from the... You don't want to be with them for the long term, but for the short term, there's nothing.
And then while Trump is saying all of that as part of his speeches, as part of his campaign speech, he's going around calling Stormy Daniels a horseface. He's calling women horseface. Here, play this clip.
To bring charges against me for now ancient, no affair story of Stormy Horseface Daniels. No attraction. No affair. I call it no affair. Where there is no crime anyway.
By the way, did you see a single story other than on the Midas Touch Network that editorial board or anybody said anywhere that says Donald Trump is calling the porn star who he had sex with a horseface, and saying no affair horseface as part of his speech over and over again? I mean, have you heard anybody talk about that at all? I mean, also, the way Donald Trump met Melania at the Kit Kat Club, and she was supposedly a model from that was brought over by this modeling agency that would bring over Eastern European women, and then the modeling agency would host these parties for wealthy Manhattan businessmen at the Kit Kat Club and places like that, and that's how Donald Trump met Melania. I mean, all this stuff is out there, and I just think fundamentally, and it's undisputed that Donald Trump was found liable for sexual assault. He's on audio bragging about sexually assaulting women. And then when he was asked about it at his deposition, he said, well, yeah, when you're famous, fortunately or unfortunately, that's what you get to do. Here, watch this.
And you say, and again, this has become very famous in this video, I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. Just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything. That's what you said, correct?
Well, historically, that's true with stars.
It's true with stars that they can grab women by the pussy?
Well, that's what it's. If you look over the last million years, I guess that's been largely true. Not always, but largely true. Unfortunately or fortunately.
And you consider yourself to be a star?
I think you can say that, yeah.
And
so look, here on the Midas Touch Network, unlike other corporate media, we're going to talk about the Epstein files. We're going to show you the undisputed things that Donald Trump said. We're also going to talk about Project 2025. We're going to talk about the real stakes here. That's what matters.
It is Wednesday, the 10th of July of 2024, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner, the English bulldog, is our snoozing sous chef. Precious, our little Yorkie, is, of course, convalescing and sleeping in a bit this morning, and we'll give you an update on her in just a moment. So, in the meantime, we will be seating you directly for our especially special daily special, Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. Will no one rid us of these meddlesome priests? And you know what we mean. Yes, you do. Okay, well, many updates, are there not? We'll start off with giving you an update on Precious. I will be taking her into the vets right after the show, so I gotta hurry up and get over there. And this will be a once-a-week deal on Wednesdays, so we'll see how that, transpires next week, and how I don't anticipate having to abbreviate the show, but we might have to have longer clips, possibly. We'll see. The vets is only minutes away, but once you're there, it's never a quick in and out. We'll see if it is though. I don't often drop the dogs off for an all-day procedure. So we'll see how that goes. What's going to happen is that instead of giving her the full chemo regimen, because it could cause her, and especially with a little dog like her, it could cause her some discomfort for 2 to 3 days after the procedure. And so what does that do? It gives her like maybe a day or two to have like, I'm having a fun life while I'm being hammered by these debilitating drugs. So what we're going to do is give her a more palliative care rather than the full-on chemo. It's a bone marrow cancer. There's no saving her. What we can do is try to alleviate we want to give her a quality of life, alleviate any pain that could be coming about, and, so, wow. I love that little thing. So, we'll just, we'll love her while we have her. That's how life is, isn't it? It is indeed. Okay. On other fronts, I need to inform you that for some reason, YouTube says they have a robot and a human determining content. So yesterday, for Terrytown Chowder Tuesdays, as far as I can tell, the Midas Touch clip I had at the top, where Corinne Pierre was getting hammered by the hyenas in the Washington, the White House press corps there, the hyenas there at D.C., and how different it was when Trump, gave like a quote presser and told the world all of his lies, and how Corinne did not want to go up there and violate HIPAA and say, oh yeah, these are the names of the people that were seen by a neurologist. Okay, he saw, Joe saw the neurologist 3 times. The neurologist came 8 times, but she's not going to divulge who those other 8 people were. And that's how it's done. And she got hammered. And then juxtapose that with a clip of Trump up at the podium telling people to put UV lights up their butt, inject bleach, etc., etc., etc. And YouTube suspended the Netroots Radio account, giving it a strike where we can't do anything for 1 week unless we violate it again, and we may have the whole channel pulled. Not like we make any money off of it, because we don't monetize. I'm sorry. I know we should. We should be dropping those little like ads in the middle of our podcasts. We should. A smart, business savvy program director, managing partner would do that, wouldn't they? Apparently not here. But anyway, so YouTube suspended our account right at Netroots Nation. When Kelly and Ricky actually use YouTube to do, well, their job. So, apparently, quoting Trump, spewing lies is advocacy and spreading his lies. I just cannot tell you how stupid this is. And even more stupid is a Midas clip that we got from YouTube that's still up. It's the basketball rules of life, as I say. Midas Touch put up the clip showing the historical reference of Trump lies, and anybody who comes after gets called for the foul. Oh, well, you're the one that spread it. You're spreading it. I am using a clip to make a point. I am not advocating that point. Years ago, during the height of Malheur, there was people here in town who would not believe we have Nazis in our midst. And so I simply put up a post of a newspaper article in which it showed this Nazi in Eugene, Mars, hanging a Nazi flag over an overpass in Eugene on the I-5. My Facebook account got suspended for spreading Nazi hate. Yeah. All I was doing was proving we have Nazis in our midst. And the algorithm said, oh no, by dint of the fact you showed this guy hanging a swastika means that you're advocating it and you're spreading it. No amount of trying to give them context would they listen. So this was a time when I was getting suspended at Facebook for like 3, 6, 7 months at a time. Right in the midst of all the turmoil that we had. They were shutting up all the large and the small voices, and trust me, we are not a large voice. But we're one of many small voices. So I guess I can go through the process of trying to explain to maybe a human. I don't know. How do you tell you're talking to a human? Well, I know I can. There's certain little tricks you can use, like Fireside Theater quotes. Always messes up the algorithm. Ask AI. Well, we'll see. Maybe it already learned it. Maybe it's learned a workaround. You never know. But I found all you have to do is say, why does the porridge bird lay his egg in the air? And that will glitch the AI. Should. Always has. And that's right out of Fireside Theater. Who says that entertainment and theater can't teach you things about life? Okay, so YouTube. Doing a common journalistic audio recording to prove a point. Unbelievable. So, I don't know. I guess I can go through the process. They did say, like, removing the content won't remove the strike. Now, I have to say, they've done this before. I've had music clips, like 17-second music clips that Nicole Sandler would have on her show, and they said, oh, well, you know, this is a copyright infringement. And I go, I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay? It's 17 seconds of someone else's content, and it doesn't make any sense. I mean, actually, that's well within the allowable. So we went through that BS. Didn't get a strike, though. I have had clips, now that I'm thinking about it, you know what? We have had clips of Trump spewing his lies, and by dint of the fact that we're showing that it's lies, we are spreading the misinfo, apparently. I guess technically. But you know what? Technically, I think we're human beings. And human beings have rational faculties that may obviously supersede a mechanical brain. Jesus. Get some soul in there. Some red blood. Okay. I'm telling you. The mechanical brain's going to think they're smarter than we are. They already do. Oh, no, you're spreading misinformation about medical issues. No, I'm not. I am juxtaposing the lies of an autocrat and how he gets away with it, and now you're shutting me up? Shut that effer up, pal. Oh, that's what you think you're doing? Okay. I wish I could say I had no idea, but now that I think about it, maybe years ago, when Trump was still president, we had an issue of quoting the President of the United States of America. Showing his lies. Ugh. And actually, at the time, I thought it was because YouTube thought that putting a UV light up your butt and injecting bleach was a good thing to do. Medical science, sound and true. Every now and then, I like to pretend I'm a guy at the end of the bar, but it's morning. You don't ever see a guy at the end of the bar at brunch. Jeez, this is way before brunch. This is hangover, I guess, drink a Bloody Mary in the morning. Breakfast, I guess. I've never done that. We used to go for menudo for like a hangover remedy back in my 20s. And that was before I learned for every drink of alcohol you have, maybe 2 glasses of water might be a good idea. And what that does, it cuts down your consumption of alcohol because you get tired of drinking 2 glasses of water for every shot of whiskey. Give me a break. And if you don't, you might suffer the consequences. And there's a little learning curve in your 20s. So we used to go for menudo in the mornings for a hangover cure. Okay. All right. Don't do tripe. Or don't call it that. Okay. Call it menudo. And then you'll be okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, we better get on this because we do have to take Precious to the vets today for her all-day IV drip. I missed that little thing already. Okay, well, at the top, hey, one of the things that the regular... Oh, I guess I didn't mention about the little tete-a-tete with one of the usual suspects here on the Rogue River Facebook page. I mentioned Facebook in general about them suspending me back during Malheur and during Trump. Lead up and during Trump. Regular suspensions, half a year at a time. Thank you very much. Well, actually, it was good. And it was also a drag. Anyway, I sometimes like to post on the town Facebook page and elsewhere in other groups that I'm involved in. Since I love music, and I did a little bit of it on radio, for over a decade or more. Wow, I guess Simon Dre and I, some people call him Simone, Dre and I guess that was over 17 years. So a little bit more than a decade of spinning discs. And I always liked music, even when I was an undergrad doing college radio then. So I like to, every now and then, post what I like to call West Coast moods, West Coast variations, etc. Things like, where I'm at. So I posted a Wilco song for a summer mood, and one of the usual suspects hijacked it to start spewing, first he baited. They bait you. Like, I'm not going to gloat. Everything I said was right. I think that's what it was. I go, oh, okay, well, I guess. What is it exactly? And that's what I shouldn't have done. So then they started going off about how Fox is the only truth and how we're all a bunch of brainwashed commies and Joe's a crook and a criminal. And I don't know. It just goes off. And I'm like, dude, this is like a Wilco song. What are you doing here? They just like, you fucking liberal. So I just deleted the whole post rather than turning off comments because I didn't want anybody and myself to read this BS anymore. I mean, there's other forums in that Facebook page you can do that at. I purposely do not post politics because what politics is like posting a legal document from a court of law to prove your point that yes, indeed, people have gone to jail for being Russian spies at the NRA. Give me a break. They didn't hear it on Fox, so it must not be true. And then when they do hear it on Fox, they hear it in a slanted view of like, oh, well, she was just like whatever they said Butina was. Innocent young damsel in distress, put upon by all those liberal, long-nosed wolves. And you know what they mean by that? Like Soros funding all of our endeavors. I only wish. So I deleted the whole post. And then, of course, I had to post something about deleting the post because that's what I like to do. Just let people know. So, yeah, leave the sound of music alone. And I did put on a GIF, and I'm never going to be a GIF. I don't care what anyone says, it's a GIF. Even if the inventor says it's a GIF, I don't care. We have taken it over. It's a GIF. Anyway, I posted a GIF of the dancing girls in the sound of music. Leave the sound of music alone. So, yeah, we'll see how that meme prevails upon whatever we are put upon. But yeah, it kind of makes me mad. Because I don't go into people's like cooking posts or, recipe posts or their bunches of lavender I have at my farm stand post to go off on, conspiracies or posting legal docs to prove a point. There's a place for that. So, yeah. I had to get that in just to put it out there because who knows what will happen if YouTube is going to take us off the air, even though we don't make any money, thankfully. It's not like we're David Pakman. Man, he makes a lot of money on YouTube. But I just wish that the mechanical brain had some sort of reasoning power to discern satire, parody, reasoned debate, and the use of evidence in that reasoned debate. Okay. I guess you'll get the mechanical brain that's as smart as the programmer making the mechanical brain. And if they don't have any morality or ethics, guess what you're going to get? Oh my, we better get going here. More than half the show's already done. Okay, well, Ted Lieu raised the issue of Trump's awful past at a press conference. And, well, if he did, would that make a sound? Well, he did, and we're making a sound about it. And if no one else will, well, there's lots of us who will. So there. And that's what I brought that up. I brought up the Epstein files and everything else to this fellow. But you know what? I decided just to delete that whole music post. I'll post another one, and we can go off on Epstein in another forum. Anyway, on the rest of the menu here, Montana Republicans want their state high court to reverse the landmark youth climate ruling. Yeah, they just won't accept. They won't accept what is. Carrying on, election conspiracy-addled MAGA commissioners in Nevada's second most populous county refuse to certify the results of 2 local recounts from last month's primary. And there's some speculation this is practice for the presidential election. Guess what, folks? Happening in states all over the place with MAGA conspiracy election deniers. Yep. And California's fast food franchises are responding to the state-mandated $20 per hour minimum wage by drastically cutting employee hours. Yeah. Those bosses will show them. After the break, we move to the chef's table, where a Russian court ordered the arrest of opposition leader Alexei Navalny's widow, who lives abroad. And you know how Vlad works. He doesn't extradite him and bring him back. No, he kills him on the street. Thank you. And following in a long-held family tradition, I'll say that again. In a long-held family tradition, French far-right leader Marine Le Pen is being investigated over illicit financing in her 2022 campaign for president. Just like Daddy, just like Dada. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Into this first offering right away here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. Republican officials in Montana will ask the state Supreme Court today to overturn a landmark climate ruling that says regulators must consider global warming emissions when approving oil, gas, and coal projects. Last year's lower court ruling, following an unprecedented trial in a lawsuit brought by young environmentalists, was considered a breakthrough in attempts to use courts to leverage policies addressing climate change. Yet, for it to set a lasting legal precedent, it must be upheld by the state's high court. That could nudge fossil fuel-friendly Montana to adopt policies more protective to the environment and also influence future climate change cases in other states, such as Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and New York, which, like Montana, have state constitutional protections for the environment. A reversal by the High Court would add to a long list of defeats for attorneys representing youths in climate cases. The bottom line is whatever the state Supreme Court decides, it's more likely to be important than the trial court ruling. Syracuse University Prof. David Dreesen, an experiment on environmental law, said officials in Hawaii who faced a similar lawsuit from young environmentalists recently agreed to a settlement that includes an ambitious requirement to decarbonize the state's transportation system over the next 20 years. And in April, Europe's highest human rights court ruled that countries must better protect their people from the consequences of climate change, siding with a group of older Swiss women against their government in a ruling with potential implications across the continent. And of course, the fossil fuel industry says, nope, cannot have that. Gabe Stern of the Associated Press brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Commissioners in Nevada's second most populous county yesterday, Tuesday, refused to certify the results of 2 local recounts from last month's primary, a rare move that has potential implications for the presidential race in one of the nation's most important swing states. The 3 Republican members on the 5-member Washoe County Board of Commissioners voted to reject the results of recounts in one race for a commission seat and another for a local school board seat. What happens next is unclear. The County Elections Department and District Attorney's Office declined to comment, along with the State Attorney General. A request for comment from the Secretary of State was not immediately returned. The rejection of the recounts and questions over how to handle it raised concerns about what could happen in November if a local commission refused to certify the presidential election results. Well, it sure looks like practice to me. Once seen as a mundane and ministerial task, election certification has become a pressure point since the 2020 election. And why is that? Why in the whole history of the United States did it change with this guy? Associated Press brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Lawrence Chang, whose family owns 7 Wendy's locations south of Los Angeles, took orders at the register on a recent day and emptied steaming hot baskets of French fries and chicken nuggets, salting them with a flourish. Chang used to have nearly a dozen employees on the afternoon shift at his Fountain Valley location in Orange County. We always called it Fountain Valley. Now he only schedules 7 for each shift as he scrambles to absorb a dramatic jump in labor costs after a new California law boosted the hourly wage for fast food workers on the 1st of April from $16 to $20 an hour. We kind of just cut where we can, he said. I schedule 1 less person, and then I come in for that time that I didn't schedule, and I work that hour. Chang hopes the summer, when business traditionally is brisk with students out of school and families traveling or spending more time eating out, will bring a better profit that can cover the added costs. Well, they've been doing it in Europe for a few decades. Maybe he'll figure it out. Experts say it's too early to tell the long-term impact of the wage hike on fast food restaurants and whether there will be widespread layoffs and closures. Past wage increases have not necessarily led to job losses. When California and New York nearly doubled their minimum wage previously to $15 compared to the federal level of $7.25 per hour, job growth continued, according to a University of California, Berkeley study, and in fact it flourished and they hired more people. Okay. Give people jobs, they spend money. Isn't that weird? No, it's not. You know what is weird? We're going to have to go to our break, no matter how short it might be. And when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world. And we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Hi, I'm Tom Hartman, and since you're listening to netrootsradio.com, show your progressive side and go to the donate button on the bottom of the homepage. It's progressives like you who power Netroots Radio and keep the progressive message beaming everywhere 24 hours a day. Just go to our donate button at the bottom of netrootsradio.com. Thank you for keeping progressive radio at full power.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Kim Lowe. This week, if you've ever wondered where the aliens from the A Quiet Place franchise hail, or why they chose to invade the Earth, you aren't going to find the answers in A Quiet Place Day One. While technically a prequel to the others, there's little here that ties it to the other films besides the aforementioned sound-attracted critters. Set in New York City rather than the rural settings of the previous two, Day One focuses on a terminally ill cancer patient, Sam, and the people she encounters as the world literally changes forever within hours. Sam, played by the always wonderful Lupita Nyong'o, is the patient who hasn't yet come to terms with her condition. Indeed, one of the strengths of the film is that Sam's illness doesn't define her character. Instead, thanks largely to Nyong'o's work, she's portrayed as a complex, shrewd, and at times angry young woman who just happens to be dying. The fact that even in the face of her prognosis, Sam doesn't just curl up and surrender illustrates one of the themes of the franchise: the strength of the human will to live, even in dire circumstances. Along for the journey is Sam's faithful cat Frodo, a memorable animal actor if ever there was one, and a young law student Eric, who, like Sam, also seems to have no family and no idea what's coming next. Given that the aliens track their prey by sound, so no one can speak lest they end up dead, much of A Quiet Place Day One plays like a silent film. In lesser hands, this might have been an issue, but new director Michael Sarnowski and the amazing Nyong'o bring it off with flair. Together, this is arguably the best of the franchise so far, with plenty of questions and adventures still ahead. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Kim Lowe. Catch up with us at TakeTwoMovieReview.com and feed us back on our channel on YouTube.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1902. A powerful gas and dust explosion occurred in the Rolling Mill Mine in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Johnstown was rich in coal resources. The coal industry in Cambria County gradually grew thanks to the rise of the industry in the region. The first large-scale mining in Cambria County occurred in 1856, when the newly formed Cambria Iron Company opened the Rolling Mill Mine. Most of the miners who were killed were recent immigrants from Central and Eastern Europe. 110 miners were killed in the explosion. The explosion was caused by fire damp, a term used by miners to mean a mixture of methane gas. Miners working in one section of the mine were killed immediately, while many other miners were killed by afterdamp, an asphyxiating gas that spread through the mine as the miners tried to flee to the only other exit from the mine. The mine reopened on July 14th. However, the disaster devastated the immigrant community in Johnstown and prompted calls for investigations and greater mine safety measures. The Rolling Mill Mine continued to operate until 1931. In the mine's latter years, it was part of the Bethlehem Mines Corporation. The Rolling Mill Mine disaster still ranks as one of the deadliest mining accidents in the history of mining in this country. There are still mine disasters to this day. In March of 2015, there was a deadly mine collapse at the Murray Energy coal mine in Marshall County, West Virginia. Thus, we remember that all workers deserve to work in a safe environment.
Come, you young fella, so brave and so fine.
Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
Way down into mine, it'll foam like a habit.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. We always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River, in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 64 degrees Fahrenheit. We only got up to 112 yesterday, and it was expected to be a bit higher than that. So only 112 yesterday. We are slated for highs today of only around 101. We'll see. Sounds more like 105 to 106, but who can tell? Sunny throughout the day with winds out of the northwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Clear skies overnight with lows in the low 60s, which will be good. Winds out of the west northwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Then mainly sunny skies tomorrow, hot, with highs hopefully under 100, with winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. We do continue with our excessive heat warning through, it looks like, the rest of the week, though hopefully we'll get down under 100 tomorrow, but I have my suspicions. Looks like grass pollen remains high here in Rogue River. The air quality index for the region, though, has dropped a bit in the good range and stands at 17 parts per million. And that daytime UV index remains very high at level 9, so do take care. Barometric pressure is falling at 29.98 inches. Visibility is up to 10 miles, and relative humidity is at 48%, and it is drying out even more than that later on. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world, and that is the Weather Underground. London is 71 degrees and mostly cloudy. Paris is 81 degrees and sunny with a thunderstorm advisory. Rome is 97 degrees and sunny with a heat advisory. Kabul is 78 and partly cloudy. Hong Kong is 80 degrees with rain. Tokyo is 82 and cloudy. Auckland, New Zealand is 48 and mostly cloudy. San Francisco, California is 58 and cloudy. Chicago, Illinois is 71 and mostly cloudy with a beach hazard warning, meaning be careful because there's lots of floating debris in the lake that could kill you. Be careful. And New York is 85 degrees Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, and they also have a heat advisory watch. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. Staff at the World Desk of the Associated Press brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. A court in Russia ordered the arrest of the widow of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny during a hearing yesterday, Tuesday, that was conducted in absentia as part of a sweeping Kremlin crackdown on the opposition. Yulia Navalny, who lives abroad, could face arrest if and when she returns to Russia. Or she just might be poisoned with polonium, have a convenient fall out of a 5-story window, have a heart attack, conveniently mugged and murdered in the lobby of her apartment building, planes blowing up, conveniently. She doesn't have to go back. Moscow's Basamini District Court ruled to arrest Navalny on charges of involvement in an extremist group, is what they allege. Navalny, the fiercest political foe of Putin, died in February in an Arctic penal colony while serving a 19-year sentence on extremism charges that he had condemned as politically motivated. Authorities said he became ill after a walk, but have otherwise given no details on Navalny's death. Navalny was imprisoned after returning to Moscow in January of 2021 from Germany, where he had been recuperating from the 2020 nerve agent poisoning that he and German authorities blamed on the Kremlin. Even more hard-working staff at the World Desk of the Associated Press brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The Paris prosecutor's office said yesterday, Tuesday, it opened a preliminary investigation last week into suspicions of illicit financing of far-right French leader Marine Le Pen's campaign during the 2022 presidential election. The office told the Associated Press that the judicial probe opened on July 2nd into allegations of accepting a financial loan, misappropriation of property, fraud, and forgery. It did not give details, and Le Pen has not commented. The investigation was opened after a report from the National Commission for Campaign Accounts and Political Financing dating from 2023. The body is responsible for monitoring candidates' expenses. In French elections, candidates are barred from exceeding a certain spending limit. French media reports said that Le Pen is not the only candidate in the 2022 presidential election that is being investigated. Her far-right National Party previously was singled out for exaggerating expenses on campaign items used by candidates in the 2012 legislative elections. The Court of Cassation rejected the party's appeal, and it was fined. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day. I should add that all the Le Pens have been investigated for campaign finance irregularities, and in many of those cases, if not all, they've had to pay exceedingly large fines. You cannot be a right-wing demagogue without being corrupt. It's part of the business model. And fortunately, some rules of law actually accept that premise. All right, that is indeed the end of our broadcast period, and we will meet up here tomorrow for Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursday, so do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks. And we will meet up here tomorrow, right here, in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair. T'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.